How to use the quotes pattern. The quotes pattern is from NLP. It was actually invented by a guy, a doctor named Milton Erickson. A lot of NLP was sort of borrowed from Milton Erickson. Erickson was a doctor, a hypnotist, a therapist, and would help his patients overcome their problems by telling them hypnotic stories. His specific method was reverse engineered into what is now called the Milton Model. The Milton Model consists of about 50 specific language patterns. One of those is the quotes pattern. It's extremely versatile and a lot of fun. You'll even see it in a lot of movies and a lot of stand-up comedy routines. Basically, it involves quoting somebody else. But while you are quoting somebody else, you're also saying the same thing to the person that you're talking to. For example, let's say you don't like your boss. He's always having useless meetings and going on and on and on about how much he loves the sound of his own voice. These meetings are a waste of time. You want to insult him, but you don't want to get fired. So here's how you use the quotes pattern. Walk into the meeting room a few minutes before the meeting starts. Look directly at your boss and say, "Man, I've been having a terrible morning. This morning in the coffee shop, I was waiting in line and this goofy looking stranger came up to me. He looked right at me and said, 'You are the biggest dick I've ever met.' I didn't even know this guy. Do you believe that? How would he say something like that to a complete stranger?" That way, you get to look at your boss, call him a dick, and not get in trouble. Or let's say you sell cars, and you've got a couple of customers that you think are close to making a buying decision. So you look outside of your office, point out another salesperson walking across the showroom floor and say, "See that guy? He's our most successful salesperson. He's got massive confidence, massive charisma. He'll look directly at a customer and say, 'Hey, I really think you should buy this car, because if you don't decide to buy this car right now, somebody else might walk in, look at this car, decide to buy this car right now. So before that happens, you, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, should buy this car right now.'" You can even use this as a test to see how they respond to this quoted command to buy this car, to see if they're actually ready to buy the car or not. You can also use extended quotes patterns to blur people's brains all over the place. It's one thing to quote one sentence from somebody else, but suppose you quoted two different people having a conversation, and the conversation they are having is filled up with a lot of linguistic trickery, so the person listening to you quoting this conversation doesn't really have a clear idea of who is saying what to whom. And in the midst of all these confusing words floating all over the place, there are a lot of commands. And when you say these commands, you'll say these commands while looking directly at the person you are talking to. Kind of like the other day, I was in this club and I noticed that I was sitting next to a couple of social media influencers, and they were discussing various tactics to see who had the best idea to get people to subscribe to their YouTube channel. And he said he just looks at the camera and says to his viewers, "Hey, I think you should subscribe to my channel, because if you subscribe to my channel, the benefits will be enormous." But then he said, if you just look at the camera and say, "Subscribe to my YouTube channel," that's pretty common because everybody uses that trick. They just look at the camera and say to the viewers, "Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Viewer, I think you should subscribe to my YouTube channel." People like to do things that will make them a more effective communicator. People like to do things that will make them much more seductive and much more persuasive. So he said that when he looks at the camera and says, "I think you should subscribe to my YouTube channel, because if you make the decision right now to subscribe to my YouTube channel, you will learn inside techniques to become much more persuasive, to become much more seductive, and become much more socially confident." And even if not a lot of this makes sense, you can use the information hidden between all these confusing words to make the decision today to go out and use the quotes pattern and tell people to do exactly what you want them to do. And they will do it because the quotes pattern is magic. Because most of the time, when you use the quotes pattern to tell people to do exactly what you want them to do, they will do it, but they will believe it is really their idea to do what you want them to do. And he said, that's exactly what I do. I look directly at the camera and I tell people to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, your skills of communication will become enormously popular. And if you watch my videos and learn how to use things like the quotes pattern, you can easily take control of other people's brains. But then he said you should only take control of other people's brains if you're going to be nice to them. Otherwise, you should probably ask their permission first. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Go out today and use the quotes pattern and have some fun. Please subscribe, like, and comment. To learn more, please visit mindpersuasion.com.